This tutorial we're going to cover how to create a door and hardware schedule. And of course, to do that, you'll come into the main form and click on the door schedule button, and that in turn will open the door schedule form. So the first thing we need to do is to select a customer or contractor that's doing the project, but you can do that by clicking the drop down, or if you know the customer's name, you can just simply start typing, and as of course the more you type, the smaller the list will get. Now if you don't have any customers in here yet, then you will have to come over to the customers button here on the main form and add the customer. And when you do that, this form is still open after you've created a new customer or even a job info for the job over here, you will have to close this form here and reopen it to reload these drop downs before you'll see that new customer or job you just added. So we're going to go ahead and just grab a first customer here, and you can see when I select the customer, it automatically loads their address that we built into the system for that customer. The next thing we need to do is to select a job. Now when I select this customer, if I click this drop down, you can see the job fields are empty. There's nothing there. When you first select a customer, will only show jobs that have already been saved under this customer's name. So to get to all the jobs, you need to check this box right here, show all jobs. So I'll click that, and now it loads all the jobs that are in the system. And again, the next thing we need to do is to select a job. I'll just grab any one here. And it looks like we don't have any address information for this project, so you could update it under the job info button here, or leave it as is. It's all up to you. Next thing we need to do is select whether or not this job is taxable, and that is needed for when you eventually get over to ordering, the ordering tab up here. Under the door schedule form there, it does load pricing for the items that you build in there. So you'll be able to send them to a sales order, estimate, or purchase order. So you could actually build a door and hardware schedule, and then create an estimate from it. Alright, so we've selected a job. Down here in this area is for the architect. And again, you need to build your architects in here first before you start the door schedule, and that would be right here with this button for the architect. So you'll build any architects you might deal with in this through this button, and when you do that, they'll show up in this drop down here. So I'm just going to grab one, doesn't matter who, and we've got our architect selected. Okay, so before we can proceed any farther, if I try to click on any of these buttons, it tells me you must save the project by clicking on Save Schedule Details before changing tabs. So I'll say OK, and that would be this button here. So I need to save this first before I can proceed on to any of the other tabs. So before we do that, let's go ahead and cover some of these. Again, you'll have to decide whether or not the job is taxable or tax exempt, non-profit, taxed by others, whatever the case may be. We'll just go ahead and choose taxable. And then the sales tax ID is whatever county the project is in. And we'll just go ahead and select the Ohio Hamilton. And this is the sales tax that will be used for this project. Now this area right here is for door hardware schedule revisions. You'll use this. You can see right now it's on 0. If I click this drop down, there's nothing else in there. You want to use this for after you've created a door and hardware schedule, you send it out to, say, an architect for approval, and then they send it back and they have it marked up with some changes or updates that they feel are needed for the schedule. So instead of making changes to the existing schedule that you've already created, you simply click on this button, New Revision. And when you do that, it will create an exact copy of everything you've entered, door schedule, hardware, everything, but it'll be under a new revision, which the next number will be number 1. So when it finishes copying that, it'll be on number 1, and then on number 1, you would go in and make whatever changes that the architect has specified on your return schedule. And that way you keep a running history of all the schedules that you send out. And then once you've made all the necessary changes, you send out that revised copy for architectural approval. And hopefully get that one back approved and without any changes. But again, if he sends another one with more changes, come back in here, open up the number 1, because that's the one that he marked up this time, and click on New Revision again, and that'll make an exact copy of the number 1 revision. And then that'll now become number 2. So then you go into number 2 under door schedule form or hardware schedule, make whatever changes they specified, and then you can send it back out again. So you can make as many revisions as you want, as needed, hopefully not too many. Best thing to do is to get this thing out and get it done as quickly as possible. So this comes in real handy for those situations. This area right here is where you're going to create product cut sheets. And you do that by clicking this button. I'm not going to do that because it's kind of a long-running form. It won't do anything now because we don't have any products. But any doors, hollow metal doors, frames, wood doors, hardware, anything that we entered on this schedule, it will create the cut sheets for, as long as the cut sheets exist. And that's where the advantage comes in to using Toad. Toad does provide all the cut sheets for all the products that they handle for all the different manufacturers. And by selecting those products through Toad, it will automatically load those cut sheets. Now we have different tutorials on cut sheets, but I'll go just kind of quick. If there are products that you're using that are not part of Toad, of course they will not have cut sheets. Now we do provide you cut sheets with wood doors. The wood doors that come already loaded in Portal Pro for Algoma, Agers, and a few others, Graham I believe. But anything else that's not part of Toad, you will have to create your own cut sheet for. And we highly recommend that you create these cut sheets. Either go to the manufacturer's website and pull down a PDF copy of the specs on that product, and then save it to a common location, preferably a shared drive that everyone has access to. You don't want to save this as under your profile, under your hard drive, for a particular product, because if you were to, say, go on vacation for a week or so and your computer shut down, it's password protected, and somebody else decides they need to use that product on a project of theirs, they will not be able to get to that cut sheet until you come back and turn on your computer. So always create your cut sheets and save them in a shared drive, and that can all be that's all covered under Add Edit Products. If you look at that tutorial on how to create those cut sheets, how to save them, and how they can be pulled up whenever you need them. Okay, now this area right here is it says show active and inactive on separate lines. That is when you create your door schedule, active and inactive doors can be shown on separate lines, where let's say you have a paired opening, a 3070 with one active 30, or even let's say one active 40 and one inactive 20 door. You can have those show up on separate lines in the door schedule. They'll still be associated to the one frame, but if you would prefer to have that shown in your door schedule, you have that option. Otherwise, it'll just show up as a 6070 pair of doors, and you would have to, on the door schedule itself, it will not show that one is a 40 and one is a 20. It will show it on the form up here when you go into that, but it will not show on the printed schedules. So keep that in mind when you're creating your door schedules. Now over here is where you can create a new copy of a schedule. This comes in handy if you do projects like I know some contractors may do, let's say a restaurant for a particular owner. So it's pretty much the same door schedule over and over, but it's just maybe different locations. So let's say this project was, give you an example, let's say there's, we have a bunch of Apple computer stores in here. So let's say we're going to create a copy of Apple Manhasset. So I would select that project. And if I wanted to make a copy of that, because now it's Apple New York or whatever it might be, I can give it a new unique name called Apple space New York, and then click this button and it'll make an exact copy of this entire schedule with this schedule, door schedule, and hardware schedule, and then you can just go in and make any necessary changes for this new project. Okay, so that pretty well covers it for creating a door schedule. All the other tabs are covered in different tutorials, so please view those for additional information. If you have any questions on this, please give us a call or email. And I'm sorry, I did forget something. Down here at the bottom. Now this is after you created your door schedule and hardware schedule, or just a hardware schedule. Keep one thing in mind. If you're just creating a hardware schedule, you still need to enter the information on the door schedule form for tag numbers. And if you want it to show up on the hardware schedule, you'll need room-to-room information and even door material, door and frame material, because that information will show up on your door schedule, or I'm sorry, your hardware schedule. And this area down here will let you print those schedules. You have the option of printing just the door schedule or just the hardware schedule or both by keeping these boxes checked. And that'll print out a copy that you can then, however you want to work with it, if you mail those out or whatever. Or you can export it here by clicking this button. It'll export it into a PDF file that you can then work with. So that should cover this whole first page here. So any additional information, questions you may have, please call or email. Thanks and have a great day.